Hi everyone, Stepan here. I'm going to show you the round 2 game from the Zagreb Cup played in April. So in round 1 I faced Krešimir Benamatic, I drew with black and we ended up winning the match 3-1 even though I played a relatively poor game, which was great. There were only 4 teams in the cup, so whoever wins the cup gets this medal which we have won last year and gets to qualify for the finals of the Croatian Cup. I've said in yesterday's video that I had a family thing going on and I couldn't focus. I basically played chess to distract myself, and for the first time since I started playing chess I wasn't stressed during games, which was a fresh experience for me. So in round 2, excuse me, I'm playing Krešimir Starcevic, who used to be 2100 and he's still 2100 strength, must have lost a bit of rating. And again, I'd expected a different opponent. I didn't know I was about to face him. In any case, he played e4, I went c6, and I vividly remember the last year's Zagreb Cup. He played my teammate Juraj in the same line. He played the Fantasy against the Caro-Kann, and Juraj and I have been preparing for the game, and I told him, well, when he plays f3, don't take and go e5, which is what he normally did going into the main lines, but play queen b6, the line I played in this game, and then go d, fe, and e5. And he forgot the move order. So we were staring at the board, I couldn't believe what was going on. He ended up going for the main line and then playing queen b6 and was losing very, very quickly. In any case, I played queen b6. So my opponent played knight c3, which is the main move, takes, f takes, and e5. And the point of this pawn sacrifice is not only to weaken this diagonal, but also to open up your bishop and to give yourself the option to go bishop c5 or bishop c4. If this is taken, then black goes bishop e6 with a pretty big positional advantage. This pawn is going to fall eventually, because you have knight e7, g6, knight d7, castles queenside. The queen is under pressure. All of black's pieces are perfect, and white's lacking development and activity. And also white's king is extremely weak. So people usually don't take. He went knight f3, which is the best move. I took on d4, and now white can take with the queen or with the knight. If white takes with the queen, we trade queens, and white plays for the f5 square, and I play against the isolated king's pawn. But he took with the knight, which is fine. And now there is this forced line, bishop c5, knight a4, queen a5 check, c3. And at this point, black has to decide between two different moves, bishop d6 and bishop e7, because white's threatening b4. And also to just take the bishop. So normally, and I've never had this position in a tournament game, funnily enough, even though I've been preparing it for a while, I would go bishop d6 under normal circumstances. But there are some lines which are not engine approved for white, which I don't know as well. For example, if you go bishop d6, then the best move is knight f3. But if white goes bishop c4, then I think queen c7 is the best move. And then at some point after castles, you take on h2, white goes king h1, and then you go knight f6. But there is a ton of compensation for white. And I wasn't really sure about a position like this one. So I just couldn't focus and remember all the lines, so I played bishop e7, which is safer. It's also worse according to the engine, but it's a marginal difference. So b4, of course. And because if you don't go b4, then, you know, black goes b5 and wins the knight if the queen has time to move away. So b4, queen c7. And my opponent surprised me here with bishop d3, which isn't a good move. The best move is bishop c4, and black goes bishop d6, and we go into those lines where white castles, I go bishop h2, and so on, which I couldn't have avoided at this point. I knew that I was going to have to go into this. But he played bishop d3. And here I had so many moves. My first candidate move was bishop d6, which seems great to me. Although moving the same piece again just to prevent castling, it's not like white doesn't have very useful moves. White has many useful moves. Like, I don't know, queen f3 or knight c5 or, I don't know, bishop e3 even. My second candidate move was knight d7, which I still think is the best move, and after castles, knight e5, bishop f4, knight f6, just developing this knight without blocking in the bishop. And my third candidate move was knight f6. Now, all three moves, and also bishop f6 was the fourth candidate, all four moves are fine. Knight f6 is second best, but it's just equal. Castles, and now once again bishop d6, but I played castles instead. And my opponent played queen e1. And at this point, I played a move that if one of my students played this move, we would be discussing it for an hour, because it's a very unnatural move, it's very unintuitive, it's detrimental to black's position, it shows a complete lack of understanding, and it shows lack of fear or lack of prophylactic thinking, because white's about to destroy you if you don't get your pieces out. And I saw this nice tactical variation, which I had semi-refuted in my head, but played it anyway because I thought I was getting a good position. I mean, the move isn't disastrous according to the engine, it's a slight advantage to white. But what's a normal move here? What should black do? Black should go knight d7. You go knight d7, white does something, let's say bishop f4, you go knight e5, you develop your pieces. Bishop c2, because knight d3 works. I don't know, bishop d6 maybe, h3, b6, preventing knight c5, rook d1, maybe knight h5, maybe rook e8, maybe bishop d7, maybe bishop b7. It's a very normal position. Instead of that, I played knight g4, a move that makes absolutely no sense. Because, okay, even though h2 is hanging, and of course white shouldn't go g3 or queen g3, firstly, if you go queen g3, I go bishop d6, and then you lose. If you go g3, then you've just created a weakness, and I go knight e5. White instead goes bishop f4, and my thinking was, okay, now I get to develop bishop d6, preventing e5, queen g3, the only move, bishop takes f4, rook takes f4, and knight e5. I've set up a blockade on e5 with tempo. My idea wasn't to put pressure on h2, but to get the knight to e5. The problem obviously is that I haven't moved any of my queenside pieces. And this knight, the knight on b8 needs to be on e5. So now I'm worse, not much, but I'm worse. And the thing I'd missed is that after rook h4, my knight is actually pinned. White doesn't have to move the bishop. I didn't see this at all. So now I have a very unpleasant choice here. I cannot move my knight because I lose my queen. I'm going to have to play f6 at some point. The rook's coming to f1. How do I develop? I have to give up my bishop on f5 when the knight jumps in, or I'm getting mated, so moving the bishop doesn't really make any sense. The c5 square is weak. So I came up with knight a6. And knight a6 threatens to play knight d3. So I was expecting my opponent to take, so he did. Because the knight on a6 now defends my queen. And my opponent plays knight c5. And I wanted to play a5 straight away. So a5, a3 takes, and a5 again, just weakening the knight. But I couldn't see a clear way forward, so I had decided to unpin my queen first. So I went queen e7, which is fine. My opponent played rook h5, attacking the knight, and I have to defend the knight, so f6 is forced, and rook f1. At this point, my opponent had, I want to say, 10 minutes or 15 minutes on the clock. I had an hour, or just slightly below an hour. And I had three candidate moves. a5, which has to be the best move. Queen e8, with the idea of attacking the rook on h5 and trying to play queen g6 to relieve some of the pressure. And queen f7, with the same idea, attacking the rook on h5 and the pawn on a2. I played queen f7 and resigned. I didn't even see rook takes e5. I just resigned immediately. So this was a devastating blunder, and I'll tell you my reasoning. When I came up with these candidate moves, I did actually see rook e5. So I was thinking, okay, queen f7. Well, okay, maybe rook f5, that loses. What, rook h4? I don't know. Then I take on a2, I guess. Maybe I can take on a2. And then I saw, oh no, rook takes e5. I just lose a piece. Then I was looking at alternatives, so queen e8. Okay, queen e8 with the same idea, the rook has to move. I'm not losing my knight, but there is knight f5. If I go queen e8, there is knight f5, and I cannot play queen h5 because of queen g7 mate. So my calculation was queen e8, knight f5, bishop f5, rook hf5, and now what do? Queen g6? I don't know. I didn't like that. And a5, I had, of course, seen a5 is a great idea. It's just, you weaken this structure here. So I don't know, something like this. Takes, e takes, maybe I put pressure on the pawn. Now white has to defend. It's just a very natural way of weakening the knight. But then I came back to queen f7 and I thought, okay, well, without allowing knight f5, what if I go queen f7? And then without even remembering rook e5, I played queen f7 and resigned. So I'm not going to blame my state of mind and the fact that I was distracted with the family thing I had going on, but I can tell you one thing. This is the least upset I've ever been after an idiotic blunder in a game. Unfortunately, we lost the match 2.5, 1.5 because of me. Well, not just because of me, but had I had the sense to blunder check, we likely wouldn't have lost the match, because after a5, black is better. Not much, but black is better. White doesn't have anything on the king side. So the game ended with queen f7. I don't know what to say. This is just, it's absurd to blunder a piece when you have more time on the clock and you actually see a5 as the resource that, creates a few problems for white to deal with. In any case, a very bad move. I can say that I have not made a similar mistake in the next 15 games you're going to see. I actually introduced a process that prevented me from doing this stuff, and yeah, I'm gonna stick to it. I'm gonna explain it in future videos, but basically, if I decide on a move, I do a very simple blunder check. I just look for checks and captures and forcing moves. And had I done that here with an hour on the clock, I would have seen or re-seen rook e5. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope you got something from the video if you play the Fantasy or if you play the Caro-Kann. And stay tuned for more chess. I'm going to show you round 3 of the Zagreb Cup tomorrow. Bye.